Welcome to Master Calculator. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. First of all, what is an unlike denominator? Unlike denominators are the bottom numbers in two fractions that are completely different. For example, the two fractions 1/2 and 2/4 have unlike denominators because 2 and 4 are different. Another example would be 3/8 and 2/15. Those have unlike denominators because 8 and 15 are different. Now that we know what unlike denominators are, how do we add two fractions with unlike denominators? Let's take a look at this example, 1/2 plus 3/8. As you can see, the bottom number in both these fractions are different, so they have unlike denominators. But how do we add them? Well, to add them, we have to find a like denominator first. So let's take 1/2. How do we make it with a denominator of 8? So we need to find out what this number is. Well, basically what we have to do is we have to multiply the top and bottom number by the same number so that we get this. What do I mean by that? So 2 times what is equal to 8? 2 times 4 is equal to 8. So if we multiply the bottom by 4, we have to multiply the top by 4 as well. So 1 times 4 is equal to 4. So our equivalent fraction is 4/8. And that makes sense because both of these are equal to 1/2. So now that we have an equivalent fraction for this, we replace 1/2 with 4/8. So our new equation is 4/8 plus 3/8. Now this is the same as adding fractions with like denominators now. All we have to do is add the top number and keep the bottom number the same. So 1/2 plus 3/8 is equal to 7/8. And if this part is still confusing you, check out my other video about finding equivalent fractions in the description. Let's take a look at this problem. This problem is slightly different and requires a few more steps. 1/3 plus 1/5, what is it equal to? Well, as you can see, 3 times any whole number, you're never going to get 5. So we need to do something else. If you remember from the previous example, we multiplied one fraction by some number to get to the other fraction. Well, in this case, what we have to do is we have to multiply both fractions by some number to get the least common denominator. But what I mean by that is we need to find the least common multiple of 3 and 5. So to do that simply, let's just start listing multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Okay, now let's start listing multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, now do you see any similarities between both of these? Well, 15 is similar in both of them. That means the least common denominator, least common multiple, is 15. So now what we have to do is we have to make both of these fractions with a denominator of 15. So 1/3 is equal to what over 15? And 1/5 is equal to what over 15? So 1/3, 3 times 5 is equal to 15. So we do the same thing on top. 1 times 5 is equal to 5. So 1/3 with a denominator of 15 is 5 over 15. Same thing for 1/5. 1/5 times 3 is equal to 15. So 1 times 3 we have to do, which is 3/15. So 1/5 as a fraction with the denominator of 15 is 3 over 15. Now that we have these two fractions, we just add them. So 5 over 15 plus 3 over 15 is equal to 5 plus 3 is 8, and keep the same denominator of 15. So our answer is 8 over 15. Let's take a look at a few practice problems. Pause the video if you want to try them by yourself. Number 1, 3/4 plus 1/2. Well, we need to get 1/2 with the denominator of 4. So 1/2 is equal to what over 4? Well, we have to multiply the top and bottom by the same number. So 2 times what equals 4? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So we do the same thing on top. 1 times 2 is equal to 2. So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. But that's not our answer. We still need to add 3/4 to 2/4. So 2 over 4 plus 3 over 4 is equal to 5 over 4. Because 2 plus 3 is 5 and we keep the denominator the same. So our answer for 3/4 plus 1/2 is equal to 5/4. Number 2, 2 over 18 plus 1 over 9. Okay, so we can do this two different ways. So I'll solve them both of the ways just to show you. So let's start with 1 over 9. How do we make that with the denominator of 18. So 18, what? So 9 times 2 is equal to 18. So 1 times 2 is equal to 2. So 1/9 is equal to 2/18. So 2/18 plus, we keep this the same, plus 2/18 is equal to 4/18. But then we still have to simplify that, because 4/18, both of the sides can be divided by 2. So divide by 2, because I'm just simplifying. 4 divided by 2 is 2, 18 divided by 2 is 9. So our final answer simplified is 2/9. But what if I told you there was an easier way, right? So what would the easier other way be? Okay, so 2/18 plus 1/9. Before, we were always taking the smaller number and multiplying to get to the bigger number. But here you could see 2/18, that can be simplified to get a denominator of 9. Because 18 divided by 2 is equal to 9. And if I divide the top by 2, 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. So 2/18 is also equal to 1/9. So now if I remove this and just do 1/9 plus 1/9, it's equal to 2/9. So this is the same thing as doing the one before, but before I solved it, then I simplified. Now if I simplify and solve it, then I won't have to simplify at the end. Both work, just choose which one works better for you. But the answer is 2/9 either way. Okay, last question. This is kind of tricky, so pause the video to try it by yourself. 5/3 plus 7/8. Well, we need to find a like denominator, because 3 times any whole number isn't going to be 8. So let's look for the least common denominator. So what are the multiples of 3? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 20, no, 15, 18, my bad, 21, 24, 27, let's go up till 30. Okay, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, yeah, I think that's enough. Okay, do we see any similarities? Well, 3 and 8 have 24. So now we need to find 5/3 with the denominator of 24. What over 24? So 3 times 8 is equal to 24. So 5 times 8 is equal to 40. So 5/3 with the denominator of 8 is a denominator 24, my bad, is equal to 40/24. Now let's do the same thing for 7/8. 7/8 is equal to what over 24? Well, 8 times 3 is equal to 24. Do the same thing to the top. 7 times 3 is equal to 21. So 7/8 is equal to 21/24. So now all we have to do is add them. So 40/24 plus 21/24 is equal to 40 plus 21 is equal to 61. Keep the denominator the same, 24. So our answer for 5/3 plus 7/8 is equal to 61/24. Now it's time to move to subtracting fractions. Adding fractions might have taken a little time, but now that you know how to do that, subtracting fractions is very similar. 6/8 minus 2/4. Well, we have to make 2/4 with a denominator of 8. So 4 times 2 is equal to 8. So 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So 2/4 is equal to 4/8. So we just remove this and replace 2/4 with 4/8. So 6/8 minus 4/8 is equal to 2/8. And you might think we're done, but we have one last step. 2/8, we can divide the top and bottom by 2 to simplify it. It's equal to 1/8 divided by 2 is 4. So 6/8 minus 2/4 is equal to 1/4. Like before, I have 3 more practice problems here. Pause the video if you want to try them by yourself. Okay, 1/2 minus 1/4. So 2 is a smaller number, so we want to try to make it with a denominator of 4. So multiply top and bottom by 2. We get 1 times 2 is equal to 2. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. We just replace 1/2 with that. 2/4 minus 1/4. 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. Keep the denominator the same, 4. So our answer is 1/4. Question number 2. 3/4 minus 2/5. Well, as you can see for this question, 4 times any number is not going to become 5. So we need to find the least common denominator. So what are the multiples of 4? Let's list them out. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And for 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, this should be enough. So do we see any similarities between these two? Well, 20 is repeated in both. So our least common multiple of 4 and 5 is 20. So now we need to write both of these fractions with the denominator of 20. So 3/4 is equal to something over 20. 4 times 5 is equal to 20. 3 times 5 is equal to 15. So 3/4 is equal to 15 over 20. Now 2/5 is equal to something over 20. Well, 5 times 4 is equal to 20. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8. 2/5 is equal to 8 over 20. Now we just replace both of these with 15 over 20 and 8 over 20 and subtract. 15 over 20 minus 8 over 20 is equal to 15 minus 8 is 7. Keep the denominator the same. 7 over 20. So that's our answer. 3/4 minus 2/5 is equal to 7 over 20. And we can't simplify this anymore. Last question. 5/6 minus 1/3. Well, 1/3, what do we do? Make it a denominator of 6. So 1/3, 3 times 2 is equal to 6. 1 times 2 is equal to 2. So 1/3 is equal to 2/6. Remove this and replace 1/3 with 2/6. 5/6 minus 2/6 is equal to 3/6. But we're not done yet. 3/6 we could still simplify it more. Because if we divide the top and bottom by 3, we get 1 over 2, 1/2. So 5/6 minus 1/3 is equal to 1/2. So our answers for these questions are 1/4, 7 over 20, and 1/2. Here's a quick guide to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators, and it has an example as well. Pause the video if you want to look through it. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to Master Calculator for more math videos.